Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to the panel for the press conference for the Food Action Alliance that's being held in the context of this third annual Sustainable Development Impact Summit. And so my name's Sean DeClean. I'm on the Executive Committee of the World Economic Forum, and I'm delighted to have here today Ajay, Jakhar, who's the chairman of Bharat, Krishak, Samaj, the Farmers Forum of India. So welcome, Ajay. And as well as Gilbert Houngbo, next to him, the president of the International Fund for Agriculture Development. So welcome, Gilbert. And then Ruben Echeverria, the Director General for the Center for International Tropical Agriculture, CIAT, based in Colombia. Welcome. And then also Agnes Kalibata, the President for an Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, based in Kenya. Welcome, Agnes. So just to give some context to the Food Action Alliance, the 2030 agenda requires food systems to deliver probably more and better on all fronts at the same time than has ever been done before. And in particular, the SDGs has really called out stretch targets around hunger, around nutrition, around incomes of smallholder producers, water, climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, and much more. But today, we're seeing that the evidence calls for urgent change. And probably an unprecedented degree of cooperation that will require immediate and collective action. And so if there is one thing that is clear being in New York this week for the UN General Assembly, there is a strong call for action and leadership if we are to deliver the necessary impact at scale, but particularly to make sure that that actually resonates at a country level, that this isn't just a global agenda, but actually has real impact in specific countries. And although there are many fragmented efforts that are taking place, we can bring a lot of these initiatives together and actives to support those country-led agendas, and ultimately to support the farmer households and the individual farmers where who are really being challenged by taking this much broader, complex agenda. And so to move forward, we will need to build smart SDG sustainable food systems. We need alignment and transformative partnerships to drive the next generation of food systems investments that will impact on food systems on a large scale. But this agenda is not easy. The complexity of this agenda can often paralyze action. We often hear it's too complex to look at everything that's involved in growing food sustainably in a way that is healthy for people and inclusive and also creates market-efficient systems. And so today we're introducing the Food Action Alliance, a next generation of partnership building on a number of different models, the new vision for agriculture and many others, to deliver on the promise of food systems that work for everybody. And so in response to a leadership mandate that came from the World Economic Forum Annual General Meeting in 2018, the Food Action Alliance has been catalysed by the efforts of IFAD, of Rabobank, of the World Economic Forum, but developed in collaboration with and leadership from the Alliance for a Green Revolution for Africa, from CIAT, from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, from regional development bank partners, from partners such as Mercy Corps, and many others who are coming together across business and civil society and international organisations to say, can we create this collective agenda that will really deliver us the food system that we need. And so this is where the Food Action Alliance brings in the capacity to serve as that platform for alignment and action that can help us to nourish 10 billion people by 2050 without destroying the planet, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement, but also in a way, as we said, that works to support the priorities of individual countries and individual farmers. And so in that capacity, I'd like to now turn to the panelists to maybe put some context to this. And so maybe, Gilbert, Houngbo, if I turn to you first. It's been estimated that as a UN organization, as the president of one of the key UN organizations looking at food, it's been estimated that achieving the SDG 2 on food security will require $140 billion annually for rural development and agriculture, which is about 10 times the current ODA that is spent on agriculture at the moment. And so as a financing institution, how does IFAD see making up this gap in funding for the future of food?
Thank you so much, Sean, for this very comprehensive introductory remarks. And to get straight to your point, I have to say that this is really the challenge that we are facing, where we know that the current, although ODA in a global term has been increasing the past years, we know that that increase is going rather to humanitarian, security, and so forth. The piece and the percentage going to agriculture has stalled around 5-6% flat for the past 10 years, if not more. That put us in a kind of a no choice then by looking for alternatives. So one, we cannot count only on ODA, and we have been talking since the MDG era, the importance of bringing in the private sector. So it seems to me that talking about action, that we have been talking about action, the time has come for us to really move toward action in terms of how do you concretely create the conditions that will bring the private sector to invest in agriculture. So there are different, obviously different products that we are considering. The first one that a lot of us are working on is leveraging our existing assets, leveraging through borrowing to sovereign borrowing or market borrowing to increase our own resources that we put in for the agricultural development. Secondly is to what extent we can use the little knowledge that we have on the ground, in the field, use it as, I would say, some kind of an assurance that will bring that extra guarantee or extra assurance that the private sector is looking for to be able to invest in agriculture. That being said, that moral or knowledge of the ground is not sufficient. So developing the insurance product itself or guarantee schemes is something that, okay, we are working with different partners on that. And I'm quite hopeful, because tremendously what you notice, there's a lot of initiative, a lot of out of the box thinking in developing new products that we need to experience. Obviously, some of them might not succeed. We have to accept that, yes, we can have failure here and there. By far and large, even yesterday, I have a meeting that was planned for half hour, ended up by even 90 minutes, where with one of this private sector, we are elaborating plan to really get into very specific thematic area in Eastern Africa, for example. So the capacity of the international community to develop new projects, for me, is a strong alternative to the challenge we have on the ODA side. That being said, though, I have to say that we have to remind ourselves that financing in itself is not the main and the main challenge, the main issue. And you touched on it, Sean, at the very beginning. I'm sure sooner or later Agnes will come through the capacity side and the knowledge side. So I'm not going to touch on that. But to really look at how you put the different parts of this puzzle together and gaining in efficiency is going to be critical in moving forward.
And so, yeah, bringing those parts together. I mean, actually, Ruben, maybe if I turn to you, I mean, Latin America, the Latin American Caribbean region probably has about a third of the world's, fresh water resources, more than a quarter of the world's medium to high potential farmland. But in order for the Latin American region to really deliver on this huge potential, in a way, that is going to be both, financially viable, but also nutritious and sustainable, there are many of these moving parts, as Gilbert is saying, and so, that are going to have to be brought into harmony. So, what role do you see then in Latin America can the Food Action Alliance play in the context of the challenges that we face in the region?
Thanks for the invite. I'm really happy to be here. One of the reasons why we are really committed from the international public research perspective on this Food Alliance, this great initiative, is because exactly what the word that you use in your question, which is harmony. Because we've been discussing these elements or this new narrative on what is a sustainable food system that we all aspire, but we are not there yet, for a long time. But we never had this type of partnerships all together in the same place before all together. So as he was saying just now, bringing the private sector, bringing civil society. To me, agriculture is a business, and farmers, if there are markets and there is good consumption of good, nutritious food, there will be plenty of value chains making good profits. So from the Latin American perspective, it's a very heterogeneous reality. We have about 650 million people. That's about half of what Africa has in population. Apparently, everybody says that Latin America has all the oxygen for the world, the environmental public goods for the world, and also the food for the world, but we have a lot of challenges too. For example, we are the most overweight and obese of the world. We have a lot of heterogeneity within countries and regions and so on. So it's not as a one single Latin America and the Caribbean. I think this initiative, and the reason we are really committed behind it, is because for us doing research on food and agriculture for a long time, now we see all the partnerships convening, connecting, coordinating, and more importantly, sharing good practices. I keep sometimes saying good practice and not best practices. I think the good practices are enough. We're still far away from the yields that we have a research or extension, or, imagine digital, imagine all the good technology that we have. If we can scale that up through this initiative, I think we are going to be much better in the real future. Now, it's not enough to have a sustainable food system narrative that we all agree with these 4 points that you mentioned in your introduction, they are great. Finally, in a short time, we do have a narrative that we agree what is a sustainable food system. The important is to have sustainable partnerships and sustainable funding, because we can have a lot of good alliances, but what is the funding? And as he was saying, if the private sector comes in, including the farming community in Latin America, the countries themselves, if we can map which are the 2 or 3 key elements from a country perspective, how to bring the private, the public, and the organizations together, yes, ODA is a fantastic thing to have, but perhaps we don't need that much ODA anymore, because the money is not in ODA only. There are many other windows to
leverage off each other.
Exactly, you leverage. So I am a pragmatic, optimistic person looking into the future, and I think, yes, we have a huge challenge, but we never had all of this discussion bringing the challenges together and connecting the dots. So I'm quite positive that having continued to do research on the subjects, working at the country and local level, not only global big messages, which is important to agree, but also the reality happens in the country. I think with that, we are going ahead. And there are many examples. I mean, it's not true. We hire a lot of people all the time. People say, young people don't come to agriculture. It's not true. It's not true. I see them coming. I'm not that young anymore. And I see them coming to do research on digital ag, to do digital extension, and to go to farming again in a new, totally new concept. Thank you.
So it requires innovation of partnerships, innovation of ideas, innovation of the way we use digital technology, and innovation in the way that we work together. But Agnes, I mean, Ruben made a point there that this is not just about, I mean, we're here at the Sustainable Development Impact Summit in the context of the UN General Assembly, but I mean, this is not just about, looking at global challenges. I mean, this is, for Africa, I mean, this really comes down to, these are local challenges. These are, and they're tough challenges to address, and they can't be just addressed in isolation by one organisation. And for African farmers, this is real. They're suffering, in the millions, the impact of climate change, and as we speak. And so, so how applicable, is this, and how important is, something like the Food Action Alliance to support what needs to be done in Africa, both at the country and regional level, but also right down to the farm?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I guess there's nowhere in the world that you get to see the opportunity for the type of partnership we are describing here as in Africa, and I will say why. When you look at what is happening at farm level or local level, there are so many institutions that are trying to get things done. There's so much private sector, a lot of it local private sector, that is really trying to work with the farming community, recognizing that 80% of the food that is being eaten in Africa is actually coming from smallholder farmers. So an ecosystem has formed around those people that is feeding cities, that is keeping the environment going. Now, despite that, these farmers are still producing suboptimally. And because of that, a number of institutions, whether it is research institutions, whether it's development partner institutions, have formed that are also trying to work towards increasing the yields of farmers, ensuring that farmers have the right extension, that they have the right levels of seeds and fertilizers that can increase their yields. My institution deals with really ensuring that farmers have access to technology so that they can increase yields. And it's true that in the last 10 years, yields have actually increased in Africa, but they are still extremely low compared to what is happening to the rest of the world. Now, that is being now completely reversed with the onset of climate change, because despite that we depend on these farmers for our livelihoods, only less than 3% of the land they're using is irrigated. So the idea of climate change, the onset of climate change is completely destroying their lives. Now, there's an opportunity here. We've come together in the past. We've come together and said, let's do something. Let's support private sector. Let's support governments. Let's really drive a force that will transform. We had the New Alliance, right? We had the Grow Africa. I feel like we were headed in the right direction with those type of initiatives. Right now at Agro, we have local initiatives at local level where we talk about local private sector. But for me, the question is always, how do these things scale? How do things go deep enough? I think the opportunity that this type of partnership we are talking about here presents is first of all, learning from some of the mistakes we've made, learning from some of the opportunities we didn't take far enough, learning from the fact that there's a real opportunity here to scale good initiatives. And the Food Action Alliance does present an opportunity for us to come together and think through, where did we come short when we were busy pushing for serious private sector investments in Africa? Where did we come short when we were pushing for, when we all do meet in those landscapes trying to invest, but we actually don't add up? Where do we fall short? So there's an opportunity here for all these initiatives to come together the right way, add up, and there are real good examples shown where farmers working in potatoes in Kenya have created, working with private sector and local governments, have created an alliance that is delivering for smallholder farmers, delivering for private sector, and is actually anchored in what is happening in local government and is funded by donors. So these things can actually happen and we can take them to scale.
Brilliant. Thank you. So Ajay, I mean, obviously, I mean, there are more than 570 million farms in the world, and India, I mean, a large number of those are run by, individual or families, on small, land holdings. And I mean, from your perspective as an Indian farmer, I mean, why is something like the Food Action Alliance possible? I'm just conscious of the time, and I want to also just get a couple of questions as well.
So I think so there's so many farmers, and they're mostly the small farmers, that it's not possible for the government to reach out to all farmers. And so an alliance is required not only between private sector and government, but even between multilateral funding agencies, banking sector, food processing sector. It's also required between extension services, research institutions. So this alliance will be able to work together to scale up models which are working, to accelerate development, and to deliver faster results. What this alliance, I hope, will also manage to do is not only be able to help farmers with modern knowledge, but also be able to take knowledge that is available on the farms of the indigenous people and of the farmers and take it back to the research system, which is not happening worldwide. And this is why it has to be a two-way flow of information going down, services being available. And also what we see in India and other places is that there is a great focus on increasing productivity. I have a saying in my village which says that when one farmer works hard, he becomes rich. But when all farmers work hard, they all become poor because there's so much productivity and there's nobody lifting that goods off the farm. So you need these alliances to be able to not only market those produce, but that they grow the right stuff in the right way. And I think it can't be done by any one institution, even if it's the government. You need an alliance to make it work at the end of the day.
I'm not sure if there's any specific questions from anyone. So, I mean, concrete next steps then. I mean, how would you, Gilbert, in terms of, this alliance, I mean, what do we need to do, in the next 12 months then to really see this, be something that's successful?
I mean, even before talking about the next 12 months, I want to talk about the next 4 months. Between now and our next meeting is January in Davos. We really need to come with very concrete, ready to roll action plan that I will expect. You know very well that together with AGRA, with the Africa Development Bank, and we need to, with the few countries, to really have concrete proposal. You mentioned at the beginning, because of the issues are so big, we just need to tackle some of them and have a concrete action and move. So not only our team are already working on that, but secondly, also yesterday I even got a WhatsApp message from one of the ministers that was at the meeting in Accra, asking me what's next. And we're waiting for you guys to tell us what's going to be next. So our team will be finalizing, together with a few countries that we are selecting, a concrete action plan for us to move. And then next year when we'll meet here, my hope and my ambition is for us to be able to report back on concretely what is happening, not in discussion on what should happen, but what is happening. And that's what the challenge I'm giving to ourselves.
I mean, I really like this. I'm just going to go to Ruben because he was asking, but I really like this sense that we need this action, but we need to be accountable, to those actions. Ruben.
Yeah, 2 concrete points. One is that thanks to IFAD and the World Economic Forum, of course, we are putting up together a regional alliance for Latin America and the Caribbean. So following up on this alliance, which is a global one, to have more traction on the ground in the region. And the second point, so that's working well, and so we can report hopefully quickly in months how is that happening, how is that coordination and discussion and networks are going to be built. The second point is that we are mapping at the country level what we call sustainable food system country profiles. 5 to 10 pages, very simple. What are the options? because there are a lot of PowerPoints out there about sustainable food systems, but what do we do in country X? So we are starting to, from the research side, put all the elements that are known in a small package to say, well, perhaps when IFAD dialogues with a country X, with the Ministry of Finance, they can use that evidence from public research to have more concrete action. So we are doing those two things, very concrete. Hopefully before the end of the year, we can show some results. Thank you.
So maybe in the same spirit, Ajay, concrete actions
I think
by the end of the year.
I think as a farmer, I would say not only concrete actions are required, but also what is required is sometimes we don't need to do something that has failed in another location. So the learnings is not only the success stories, but even the failures need to come back so we don't repeat the same mistakes.
To Agnes's point earlier,
Yes.
How do we make sure we've had these partnerships, we've had different alliances, how do we, if we're going to create a larger, more comprehensive alliance, how do we really learn from that? Agnes, the last word over to you.
No, thank you. We are already working on a number of initiatives together. AGRA has been having a number of meetings with IFAD at country level, trying to, like you said, Sean, at the beginning, how do we put it in a country context and ensure that what we are doing is aligned to countries' own priorities. We are not coming up with an agenda. These are not our countries. These countries already have an agenda. How do we align to this, their work and what they are trying to achieve, and just ensure that we are adding up? So I think for me what would be really different is how we find a few of those, a few countries, not more than 5, agree that in these countries we are not just going to work together, we are going to get together and find other partners as well, and agree to really drive down together and see what that will look like at the end of the year, but also see what it will look like in the next few years that can be an example of what working together in these countries will look like. And at the center of that, there has to be private sector. This is all about ensuring that we are anchoring our resources to something more sustainable, being private sector.
So it's everyone working together, isn't it? It's private sector, government, smallholder farmer organizations, farmers themselves, civil society. So thank you. So action, alignment, and accountability. So we hope for a very successful Food Action Alliance, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.